Hi, folks, and welcome tonight to a brand new episode of The Life, Living, and Love of an Author. I'm very excited to get this episode started this evening with being a little behind schedule. And I see you, Richard. Thank you for joining. I have a special guest tonight. He is a poet, a best-selling poet and author, and I'm very happy to call him a friend. If you're out there in YouTube land, Google Plus Hangout, thank you for showing up tonight. These episodes are very unpredictable. If you've watched previous episodes, you can stream them live on YouTube. I want to start off by reading a quote from chapter 3 of my book, my novel, Revelations on Mental Health, The Spoken Truth. The moment you break the silence on your own terms, others understand what you're going through. Depression isn't easy, and carrying the stress wears thin on your heart and soul. Now, when I wrote that part in the chapter, I knew what I was talking about. And it's true because a lot of us deal with depression, anxiety, several disorders that we just can't really control and have a hard time communicating with other people, especially those who don't have a disability or a mental illness. And it's just something that, you know, we can really be able to talk about. And there's Richard popping up on my screen. Thank you again. But that was how I wanted to start this evening, and I knew I wanted to bring a guest in tonight. I didn't know if he would be available. I'm glad he is here with his little boy Ryder. It is such a sweetheart. And if you can't hear him on the other end, let me know, or just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. I don't know, but it's just a wonderful thing to have a guest this evening. And getting started, like I said, my guest is Richard Niddle Jr. Apparently he can hear me.
I can hear you. Thank you.
So if you can come in and talk with us, that would be great. He has got a lot of great insight on his own life living with depression. And welcome, Richard. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
We might have a communication barrier going on here, because I can't hear anything you're saying. I must need my...
Let me try coming back in again. Okay. Let me try coming back in. Right now I'm on my phone, so give me a second.
I don't know where my ears are, so...
Can you hear me? So you can't hear me? Okay, I'm gonna try jumping on. I'm gonna jump off and then jump back onto my computer. I'll be right back.
One moment. And here I am with some ears. I found some ears. It's a good thing to have ears, especially if we want to get this going here. I forgot my ears. This is what happens when you rush around trying to get things done. Hopefully this will help us a little bit. If not, I apologize for the inconvenience right now. And if Richard comes back in, we'll be able to talk to him. It's been a while since I've done these with other Google Plusers and folks on Twitter or YouTube. So I apologize for any inconvenience this evening on that. But I don't know if that's working, but if you come back in, Richard, that will be great. I have my ears. I'm all set now. Hopefully that will help us communicate a little better instead of sign language. I know very little sign language when it comes to this. My friend knows more than my best friend knows more than I do. But I started off with a quote from chapter 3 from Revelations on mental health, the spoken truth. And if I'm going to reread that now for you again. The moment you break the silence on your own terms, others understand what you're going through. Depression isn't easy. And carrying the stress wears thin on your heart and soul. I know a lot of people who live in silence of mental health and their mental illnesses. And isolation is by far one of the things that we do when we go through these bouts of depression. It can lead to other things when you put yourself in isolation. And I remember at a time that I was very isolated from the world and only stayed inside in the confines of my home. And I was very, very much just a bitter, angry person, blaming everybody but myself for my issues and depression at the time. So it really goes back to when I first started going through my bout with depression. And for some people, they will always have it. In my particular case, I had depression for about 3 years, and it really it led to other health issues for me, and started going through a number of other issues with it, and it really wore on my heart, and it really wore thin on me to the point where I stopped attending church, I stopped praying, I stopped reading the Bible, and I stopped doing all the things that I once did before. And as a devout Christian myself, I had a hard time dealing with it because I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I just, you know, went into this really deep funk that I call it. And it was hard. It was difficult. And I think that's how that sentence, that quote came about in this book, because of my own struggle with depression for 3 years, and which actually led to the discovery of my anxiety disorder, which I never knew that I had it. And I was very closed in a lot, but I was also very nervous. I was very anxious, and I would snap a lot, and it's, yell and do those things that I just didn't know why I was doing it. I was just doing it. I felt like I said, I felt like people were looking over me all the time, and or looking at me differently, and it just really, really, really grabs me, and it took on a different persona. I had like a different persona and a different level of that. So I don't see Richard, but if he does join me back in, I'm going to ask him a couple of questions this evening. I do have some questions for you folks out there. And when I started writing the notes, and I don't know why the notes started, my keynotes started yesterday, basically. Yeah, it was really weird because usually I'm so well prepared for these, and I was just not with it. I think a lot of it has to do with my current medical issues. So I apologize for a lot of that myself. So, sometimes these medical things that come up, um, it's hard. It's hard. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad I'm here, and really being able to connect with you this evening, and always connecting with you each week in these episodes, and hoping that you can walk away with a little more clarity in your life, and being able to um, really understand that there is someone out here, just like you, and just like Richard, and a few other friends that have these issues, such as myself, in circumstances, basically. And I'm saying, and I don't know why I say it so much, but it's true. And um, what I want to do is ask you folks questions. Um, I've had previous poll questions for you from episodes 2 and 4. I will redirect you all back to those poll questions. Feel free to take those questions, poll questions. Really want to I really want to know what your thoughts are, your thoughts, ideas, opinions are on those poll questions. I have 2 for you this evening. Um, the first, how do you handle situations that raise conflict? And number 2, are you able to reason with a direct answer? I I thought about that. I actually did, because I still have this issue of conflict and reasoning with my anxiety. Now, everybody is different with, obviously, with if it's depression or bipolar, social anxiety, a type of phobias or fears. Everyone deals with conflict, differently. And I want to know how you feel. How are you able to handle those situations? And how do you reason with them when it comes to conflict? I myself um, have a hard time dealing with conflict, because I could be a real introvert. Um, I'll always be an introvert, but in a lot of ways, I've become more of an extrovert, to be more open and be more vocal with this issue or this topic, such as mental health and mental illness. So many of us live with this. And I myself, with anxiety, handle conflict a-okay at times. It all depends on the situation I am in. And it could be a juggling act, really. I think of it as a juggling act because of the situation you're already in. Okay, I feel like I'm just sporadically talking and not even thinking. Sometimes I lose my train of thought when it comes to these episodes. If you've noticed in past episodes, that I can be very sporadic. I don't know where that comes from. I think that might have something to do with my anxiety at times. But dealing with conflict used to be very, very much of a challenge for me. I would always raise my voice and yell when it came to dealing with conflict, especially in the workforce. It could be really hard in the workforce, especially if you work with someone you can't get along with. And I have been through a lot of that in my lifetime, believe it or not. From the time I was 17 up till now, I I've had, you know, um, experiences with coworkers or associates, and just going off the deep end, and then I have to try to compose myself to reason with them, because people with you know a normal mind versus someone with a mind who is completely different and out of the ordinary, they're going to clash and they're going to butt heads. And um, I could give you a brief example of that. Um, for instance, say that, oh, this person named Mark is is wanting to request off specific day through the week due to a family gathering, um, or a or something that is an emergency or at a doctor's appointment, and have to have that time off. And the manager tells Mark that you should have had put that request in 3 days ago or maybe 4 days ago, but didn't know until 3 days ago or 4 days ago, and just now getting to get that request put in. The conflict then arises, an argument breaks out. Mark tells his supervisor, well, if I don't get this day off, I'm basically screwed. And I I wouldn't, you know, but that's just how someone would react and not know what to say. And maybe Mark has a disability and his boss isn't, that that that's where heads butt and crash a little bit, because they don't know how to handle the conflict. Vice versa, with someone with maybe an anxiety issue to someone who doesn't have it. There can be a lot of tension. And when tension arises, then stress appears. And that is something that a lot of us live with every day, is stress. There's no way around it at all. There's no way of getting around living with stress. You know, several of us, many of us, live with stress in our lives. So, how do you deal with the conflict? Can you reason with a direct answer? Um, how do you deal with it daily? How do you react? And are you able to compose yourself? And are you able to um, not feel stressed in that situation or circumstance? There are several things that come into factor with someone with anxiety or with depression or with a mental illness that you'll always have. Other people just don't understand. However, when you do come across someone with that with that same mentality, y- you click and you understand each other. And the heck, that's half the battle right there, is getting to know someone else with the same issues and the same problem. Um, I remember when I first met my best friend Tiffany, she and I just clicked. It is because we both have a disability, a learning disability. And there are times where she understands me better than my own family does, because we have that common similarity, um, mentality. And some of it I don't, and some of it I do. I don't know any other way to talk about it or discuss it. But if Richard came back in and he would be able to talk with us, I will probably end up going through an interview with him on this episode tonight. So he was here. He is not now. So I apologize to my viewers for that. And I will do a I don't know, maybe like a Skype or a Facebook. I might do a Facebook live stream with Richard, and join you, and you can join in on that live stream. Make it where all of us are able to communicate and connect like that. I know a lot of other folks in the business do that as well. So look forward to that. So I don't know how soon I will be able to do that, but that is just a little side note for you folks this evening. That let's talk about it. Let's raise the awareness. I remember writing this out and bubbling it because this is something that I'm really passionate about and want very proactive in raising your voice. Um, as much as you try to hide from your um, your issues with mental health, it's hard to feel open. And I remember talking to someone on Instagram here a week ago, and I told him, I said, if I can remember correctly, what I said to him, I said, the moment you open your heart, fully open your heart, um, God, you have that true connection with God, and you have that way of really listening more with your heart as opposed to listening with your mind. It just made sense because of the things that I have been through myself with a learning disability and with having anxiety as well. It's just a combination of those two that I have found my peace and my serenity with with the Lord and with his words and listening to him. Um, I want to get into talking about that hopefully in the next episode next week. But we want to communicate, we want to connect, and we want to encourage each other through this because so many of us live with a form of mental health. And I know a lot of us are very um, hidden from others on speaking out about it. And I believe this was where I was meant to be, to talk about it and be that voice for someone who may not be able to talk about it. And just really let you know that no matter how life is treating you, God loves you regardless. God is always going to be there at your side. And I say that a lot because it's true. And some people might think, okay, this girl's nuts. She believes in God. Um, you know what? I am and who I am. You know, there's you can't change that about me. That's just who I am. And so we want to be more socially aware of those around us when it comes to this on social media. And I said that in the previous episode. We want to really, be respectful to others who have these issues and just talk to someone. And like I said, talk to somebody, as I said before. And I don't like to repeat myself, but it's true. And the more we communicate, the more we connect and encourage each other, the better we understand each other as people and not as enemies. Um, I have my fair share of enemies actually, but it's just how life can be. Life is tough enough to you know to go through anything, whether if it's a mental health issue or if it's financially, um, your job or your career, children, everything. It's just so much, and there's only 24 hours in a day to get done what you can get done. And some people go to bed at night with stress on their bodies and on their minds. And I do. I admit it. I do. It's not easy. It really isn't. And but those who actually have more of those um, issues with anxiety and depression, clinical depression, postpartum depression. I mean, there's bipolar. I mean, there's so many so many forms of mental health, autism, Asperger's. I think I pronounced that right, but yes, there's so many, ADHD. There's so many, and the connecting with someone with that, it makes life easier because you understand that person better than someone opposed as to not having mental health issues. It really does come down to connection and communication. We want to encourage each other. We want to raise our voices and be heard. We don't want to live in silence, do we? I hope not, because I did once, and it was not fun. You know, there's nobody around. You just want to close yourself off from the world, but the world keeps on moving regardless. But we want we want to remind folks that no matter who you are or what you do, um, someone's going to be there to understand you and get through that. And that was basically tonight's episode. Like I said, I started late, and um, just very last minute rush this evening. So next week a little be more on schedule, and go back to. I really encourage folks to go back to episodes 2 and 4. You can live stream that. Go back to 2 and 4 and answer the poll questions. They are on Facebook. I will link you back to those polls, and answer tonight's question. Answer how would you handle, or how have you handled situations that raise conflict? And are you able to reason with the direct answer? That will be listed tonight, among a number of other things, this evening. So go to the Facebook page at The Real Shellie Palmer. I encourage you to take the polls. I really do. The poll questions. And leave your comments, questions, thoughts, ideas, suggestions. I'm really anxious to hear from you, the folks, the viewers who watch it every week on these episodes. And like I said, Richard was here. It was a very last minute decision to bring a guest in this evening, but it just kind of made sense to me yesterday that, oh, I should have a guest, maybe even 2 guests this week. My other guest, she is Lisa. Her name's Lisa. She is on Twitter at The Worry Games. She is a blogger uh, on anxiety and mental health issues, as she lives with anxiety. And this was something that I wanted to discuss with folks tonight, that anxiety is something that really triggers people differently. And with my anxiety, but there are panic attacks, um, restless nights of sleep. You don't sleep at night, and you're awake at all hours of the night. And sometimes with my anxiety, I get really agitated, and irritated at the littlest things, and it just sets me off. Um, but usually I'm pretty calm when my anxiety is not, off on the kaputs on the other end. But the medication that I'm on has me pretty stable. But you know, some people don't even take medication for their anxiety. Fortunately, I have to have it due to my other issues with my learning disability. So it is what it is with that, and it keeps me calm. But I also practice meditation, and I prayer, and I read the Bible. So that's my form of handling and living with anxiety. Lisa deals with it quite differently as well, but there's some similarities there between us that where we really click. And if she's watching this evening or anytime this week, thank you, Lisa, um, for all the blogs that you post on your blogger page at the Worry Games. I mean, they're wonderful blogs, by the way, and it inspired me. I had written a poem a while back titled Anxiety. Well, that poem is on a website. It's on Poetry Fest, poetryfest.com, or is it .org? It's one of the two. But that is on there if you wish to read that poem. I believe it's poetryfest.org. And if it isn't, let me know, and I could direct the link right over to you. Um, that was something that inspired me. She inspired me to write that poem. It just really clicks. You know, I really click with people on certain levels, and she was someone who I really click with, as well as Richard. And Richard's story is in this book, the mental revelations on mental health, the spoken truth. And I thank him for wanting to be a part of that book. I spent a great many months working on that and writing it, and I'm very happy that I was able to bring that book out into the light of the world and really share it with people, because it means a lot to me, for one, and it was very therapeutic writing it. As I said in last week's episode, it was truly therapeutic for me, and just able to at times compose myself. Uh, there were moments where I actually st- stopped and literally started crying because so many memories came back. I remember um, the accident that I had. I had a physical accident in the in the workplace several years ago that left my left knee permanently disabled. I mean, I have very little movement in my leg because of that accident, and went through a lot of issues with my knee. So I kind of just made the downhill slope into the depression that I went into for 3 years. And it, there was a moment and a time where I actually wanted to give up on my life. And uh, uh, God did appear. He came to me and he told me, your work's not done. Your work is just starting. I'm putting you through these challenges for a reason. So if you're struggling with any form of mental health, the moment you surrender to God, the moment you start truly living, that is the most beautiful thing to go through ever. And I remember going through that, and I will never forget it to this day. I really get choked up at times when I even want to even think about it. And so let's talk about this issue. I've hashtagged it before. I'm going to continue hashtagging through the entire season. We have a month and a half left of this season. So hashtag let's talk, hashtag mental health, hashtag raise your voice. Yes, lots of hashtags. And I love to use these because it's very fitting for each episode in in this season, whether it is on religious views, Christian views, whatever topic we're discussing. It is solely on us and how we feel as human beings. We owe it to ourselves to be who we're supposed to be, and inspire one another, encourage each other, uh, communicate and connect. As I said before, it's something we want to do, and be there for one another rather than living in that isolation and away from the outside world. The world keeps moving. It really does. So don't stop living it. Just live. And there was a while back I didn't even think about it. I had already thought about this, and I had wrote this quote. Um, in my quote book, and I want to share this with you this evening before I close. And I want to let you all know that if you want to talk to me, I'm always free to talk to you. Always free. Leave me a message, PM me, DM me, wherever you are. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I am there in a heartbeat. Um, and this is what I had to say about this. To be able to speak out on mental health was never a plan, never a plan ever, or an obligation. To tell my story just may help someone with the same issues feel open enough to talk about it themselves. To me, it's simply connecting with someone that is going through it, who may not know who to turn to. And I I I know in my heart that I'm here for a reason, and this is why I'm here. God gave me a voice and a purpose in this world, and so help me God, I'm using it. And having this platform to do it in is just brilliant. I want to thank the creators of YouTube and Google Plus because I have this outlet and to talk about mental health and talk about these issues and topics that people find so controversial. What's the controversy behind it? Is it the medications? Is it the doctors who prescribe it? The pharmacies? What? There's, I mean, I could get on a complete, you know, discussion on that completely and have actually. So I want to take the time and thank you all for coming out this evening. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you tuning in every week and come back in next week. Another episode will be next week. I don't know what we'll be discussing next week. We might continue discussing mental health, but rest assured, I will be here next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 6 Central. Next week, I'm going back to the live stream. So live stream on YouTube, and then the Google Plus Hangout afterwards. That happens after. So thank you for tuning in tonight. I'll see you all next week. Be sure to follow me on The Real Shellie Palmer on Facebook. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at The Real Shellie Palmer. Google Plus as well. Richard Niddle Jr. or Richard will will oh boy, I just had a brain freeze moment. Richard Richard okay, his name's Richard. Yes, we know that. um I just, my mind is all mushy right now. um be sure to follow Richard as well. That's what I wanted to say. Be sure to follow Richard on Twitter, Facebook, um, YouTube, Google Plus. We're all on Instagram as well. And I want to thank Lisa as well, even though she couldn't make it this evening. And I know it's hard to be at these things at times. So I appreciate anybody who tunes in each week for these episodes. I hope you walk away with something. I pray every day for folks, and just thank you for being who you are. Be sure to hashtag Let's Talk, hashtag mental health, and hashtag raise your voice on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And I'll see you all next week. Good night and goodbye. God bless.